Sponsor an orphan, and you'll help support a vulnerable child to have the education they've always dreamed of, so they can build a brighter future. You'll be feeding a hungry stomach and a hungry mind with knowledge that will last them a lifetime. That's the power of an education. Sponsor an orphan now with Islamic Relief.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. That's me. I'll be dressed a little bit like this for the show. Please come out to support. It sounded funny at the time in Dearborn, December the 17th, 2022. All right. So here's the deal. I just got to get this straight. That's all right. Because I can't keep bending this way. So look, this show is going to be amazing. I'm being brought there by my brother, Big Fresh, and everybody in the Hammer Track area. My main man, Ishmael, and his lovely queen. Rafiki's going to be there. This is going to be an amazing show. It's going to be intimate. It's going to be funny. Years ago, I did something called Love Supreme and Anatomy of Gratitude, which was a true tribute to John Coltrane through comedy. Now we have this thing. We got so many things to talk about: the pandemic, the elections, Trump. Listen, brothers and sisters, this is the time. We're going to be doing a show. Yeah, it is. It's called It Sounded Funny at the Time, Dearborn, Michigan, December the 17th. Listen, I hope you guys attend. I'm looking forward to coming back to the Dearborn area and just being amongst my brothers and sisters. Come on out. $20 if you get your tickets early. $25 you get them late. And if you don't like Muslims, you don't get a ticket at all. Listen, see you there. I won't see you. No matter, because we're going to have an epic time. With your moms. It sounded funny at the time. All right, everybody. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi barakatuh. This is me, your host, Preacher Moss, the host of the SOS, the Shout Out Show. Hope that you're having a wonderful Tuesday. We are 2 days away from officially being in Thanksgiving, big gobble gobble day. And after that, it'll be Black Friday, and it'll be sliding into Christmas time. You guys know how this goes. So listen, a couple shouts out. Shout out to a good friend of mine. He asked me not to mention his name. I'm not going to mention his name, but hey, brother, get better. Take your time, listen to the doctors, and get better as well. Just want to give a shout out to people that come out and do good things for other people, just in the process of doing good things. I want to give a shout out for good deeds, if you will. Sometimes we don't do good deeds, or we feel like somehow if we do this, there's nothing coming back. Believe me, the universe takes notice of what you do, and it will come back to you, okay? So that's number one. Now, let me introduce the topic today, because a lot of people, this is one of these deals when you do these shows, you will get stopped on the street or in line at Subway or something, and someone will argue with you. I see one person who may argue with me, my own brother, JT, brother known as Johnny L. Thomas, may argue with me with some of my choices. I'm going to talk about top 10 jazz musicians. Now, there are so many categories, so please don't get upset with me. You've got jazz musicians, you got players, you have people who do arrangements, you got people who composers, people great band managers, band leaders. You have all of that. You got jazz singers. You got those who can sing straight, they can scat. I mean, it's such a diverse type of music that I tried to do my best. You know, we only have 30 minutes on the show. I tried to do my best. So I'm going to ask everybody to please bear with me. I'm going to go my top 5, and then I'm going to go alternatives. Like in jazz music, you have a song, you have an alternative take. I'm going to do my top 5, and then we're going to do alternative takes. Okay? So before we get into that, I got to give a shout out to my crew, my family, the Shout Out Show family, Shout Out Show soldiers who so diligently sticking with us. As you know, man, it is so hard to do something every day and be ritualistic with it, disciplined with it. I just want to shout out the family, the crew. Let's get them in here, Satana. Who we got today? I know who we got. We got Sister Reed. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi barakatuh, Sister Reed. Derek, take care of that eye, man. A little worried about you. And shout out to Juwan, your prince. I hope everything's going well with you. Thanks so much. The chicken smothered in gravy with onion with rice. It was wonderful. Trust me. There's nothing more to talk about it. I'm just giving you the play-by-play afterwards. I blessed the chicken and before it was gone. Okay, thank you so much. Want to give it a shout out. Our main man, our Canadian envoy to the show. We call him Mr. 6 o'clock, straight up, straight down. My main man, Altaf Rashid, checking in from Canada. My dear brother, wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How you doing, sir? Good to see you on the show, in the place. Feel free. If you don't know some of the artists that I'm talking about, guess what? You should go Google them. Or you should go on YouTube and listen to some of these artists that I'm talking about. And you can thank me later. Or better yet, thank them and go out and buy some of their records. I'd say records, CDs, or downloads, whatever it is these days. Next up, shout out to my main brother, big brother, Bilal Salahuddin, his queen sister Sonia Dalton Salahuddin. What's going on, my beloved brother? Why are you alone? Is the sister coming back? You got to treat her right, man. You're on and then you're off and you're on. Make sure she's there. Okay, but when she comes home, give her a big salams from your brother, Preacher Mars. Not from me, from your brother, Preacher Mars. Good to see you on the show. And my brother, wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Johnny L. Thomas, better known as JT. What's up, beloved? You may, yes, disagree with your brother on some of these jazz choices. And I'm encouraging everybody on the show today. This is my top 10. You have your top 10. The comment section is there. Chime in with who you want to chime in with. And I don't have a problem with that. You know, I'm just saying, I will say maybe I'll catch you out. And I'm like, back up what you say. Why did you like this person? You know, what's their work? Let's say the history of work, things like that. I'm gonna ask, what's their art look like? And if you make a case, I will go get their art. I'm that guy. I'm always trying to hear new music. All right. And we'll give a shout out to my main man, Eric Carter. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Beloved, thank you so much for tuning in. This is a jazz show. Now, here's the deal. I'm not going to make it traditional jazz. I'm not going to make it avant-garde jazz. I'm not going to make it smooth jazz. I'm talking about jazz artists. Now, let's be honest. Most of my jazz artists, if you will, are traditional guys. But I've grown up a little bit, and I do appreciate avant-garde and even a little fusion. So, hey, don't hate the play, hate the game. All right. And we can't get the show started. Oh, Ziad, what's going on, beloved? Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm sorry. Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thanks so much for tuning into the show. If you have something you want to add to the show, please add to the show. If you have some artists that I don't mention, or better yet, I haven't heard of, please bring them on the show because I will go look them up because I like to hear good music, okay? All right. And we can't get the show started out without our executive producer, Sister Satana Whitfield, being the good aunt in New Jersey on Thanksgiving, making sure that her nieces are taken care of. Shout out to Sister Satana. All right, so here's the deal. We're going to rock and we're going to roll. Okay. So we done, Sister Satana? We good? I got to wrap. I'm over. Okay, we'll be right back. I need some water. We'll be right back. All right, so here's the deal. I'm all out of order. As Sister Satana was saying, that Preacher Moss is all out of whack. That's what happens when you start talking about jazz. That's my thing. That's how I grew up. Satana, it was going to happen. It was going to happen one day. It's probably happened a couple of days, but I just ran on and on. But let's get to the conversation at hand. Top 10 jazz musicians. This is the way I do it. I go trumpet, saxophone, bass player, trumpet, saxophone, bass player, drums, and maybe I'll just do that. We're just going to do it a quartet. I'm not going to do a quintet. Bass, drums, horn player, piano. Okay, so let me give you who I think are my tops. You're going to have your pioneers, okay? Under bass, I'm going to give you Charlie Mingus. Now, some people argue about Ron Carter. Ron Carter is a bass player beyond this world. He's the next level bass player. But the playing of Mingus back in the days gave a little bit of a space. And you can put his name up, Charlie Mingus, Sister Satana. Charlie and Mingus, Mingus. The thing about Mingus is that Mingus expanded the music, and he complemented a lot of different styles to help transition from the bebop era up into the modern jazz era. From bebop to modern jazz, Mingus was that guy. Okay, horn players, this is a tough one. I know I should say Miles Davis, but I'm not going to say Miles Davis. I'm going to say Louis Armstrong. Louis Armstrong is the epitome of a player, and he did a little bit more than Miles in the context of expanding the music. During the time of race and Jim Crow and all those things for Louis Armstrong, he used to say he smiled all the time. Well, he smiled because other people didn't have to smile. They just played the instruments. But Louis Armstrong was two things. Number one, he was experimental in the music, and he introduced the idea of the solo, the musical solo in music, particularly jazz, where you would have 3 or 4 bars and musicians could showcase what they brought to a song, not their talent. Of course, they're going to do that, but what they bring to the song, what they enhance. So Louis Armstrong is my number one trumpet player. Now, I know I'm going to get in trouble with it. I will get in trouble. I'll deal with it because there's so many great trumpet players. But even Miles will tell you that Louis Armstrong was a trumpet player's trumpet player. And when you talk about Miles Davis expanding music, this is the guy he listened to. And Louis Armstrong was able to move from the big band to the smaller band. He bridges a couple of different time zones in music, and you really have to appreciate that. There's a documentary about Louis Armstrong on Apple Music. I'm going to insist everybody go watch that documentary on Louis Armstrong. And this is the reason why I'm saying, because every once in a while you'll hear about a musician and what they bring to the public dynamic, the public discourse is not just about music. He is a walking history of starting out poor from Louisiana and moving and expanding and growing into music. Who would he? King Oliver was the guy that he hung with. And King Oliver gave him his spot, but he realized that, wait a minute, this guy's playing differently. And, you know, what I love about Louis Armstrong, and I'm rambling a little bit, what I love about Louis Armstrong is his ability to take the music and apply it to the welfare of others. Not just musicians, but, you know, playing for charity organizations. He's one of the first guys that does that. All right. Saxophone players. All right. It's going to be John Coltrane. Here's why I choose Coltrane. Not because he's had an incredible influence on me. He has. It was Coltrane that really had a profound effect in terms of, here we go, the solo as a spiritual expression. You know, I talked about Louis Armstrong as my top trumpet player. And they're great trumpet players. There's Armstrong, there's Miles, there's Clifford Brown, there's Lester Bowie, there's Lee Morgan, there's Fats Navarro. There's a whole lot of people I can tell you about, right? But he introduced another thing about the music. I was listening to a CD of Miles Davis. It was the last concert of Miles Davis and John Coltrane. And the runs he goes on are just, you know, it's interesting because he encompasses the whole idea of spirituality in music. That the music that we're playing is for a world discipline. This is purposeful music. And I really, really enjoyed that. My top piano players. Whew. This was a tough one. Because you got Basie, you got Ellington, who's a DC dude. You got Fats Waller, you got Art Tatum, you got Bud Powell. But for my taste, and Jimmy Smith played organ. But for my taste, as a young man, I was drawn to, wait for it, Thelonious Monk. Now, people say, why were you being drawn to Thelonious Monk? The reason I was drawn to Thelonious Monk is because he epitomized a certain type of artistry that I was listening to as a young child when I was trying to be a jazz musician. And he had this whole idea of syncopation. Like the left hand and the right hand sound like they were on two different planets. Forget piano, they were on two different planets, and he can hear out of both ears. And what he had a gospel stroll, so he can play the pedals while he was doing that, and it reminded me of church. Thelonious Monk was a guy. If you read his biography, what was interesting was at 11, 12 years old, he's on the road with as a professional musician playing with gospel choirs. And that's something that really, really tied to me. I mean, he's got Bimcha Swing, he's got Naima. He has all of these things, if you will. And what I like about him is that he doesn't cheat the music. None of these guys cheat the music, but Monk never cheated music. And there was a thing about his algorithmic understanding of music that he can hear notes where there were no notes. This is like the ultimate creative thing when you're watching other creatives, that he can hear notes and they weren't there. And he can come in on notes that weren't there. And it was just amazing to watch. Even myself now as an adult, I listen to Monk and I'm like, this is amazing. I run the Monk in the morning sometimes. This is like totally amazing. Okay. We got some other folks that have come in also. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah barakatuh. Roberto Rashid, Betty Carter today, baby. Okay, listen. We're going to have an argument about singers because there are a lot of singers. And I don't think any of the singers lose. So I'm gonna split them. I'm gonna do female jazz singers, and maybe we'll get to the male jazz singers later. I was just listening to Gregory Porter, who's one of my faves right now. So we've done horns. What else we done horns, done pianos, bass players. No, we did bass players. We did bass players. We did horns, saxophone. Okay, we're gonna do drummers. Whew. I'm a big Norman Connors fan. Just so you know, I like Norman Connors. He kind of expanded it. I mean, he played in Miles' band, but he was the guy that made the jump commercial. You Are My Starship, and his work with Michael Henderson and Phyllis Hyman. I really like that Norman Connors would go out and try and find new talent, and that's what Miles Davis did. But you got a cadre of drummers that you got to look at. You got Art Blakey. You got Philly Joe Jones. You got Elvin Jones. You got Elvin Jones from Coltrane's band. You got all these people. But the one who stood out to me was the coolest of them all. And that guy is, who is it? I know you guys. We don't know, preach. The guy who stood out to me, and I got to see him live when he was later in life. It was Max Roach. Max Roach's playing is 100% impeccable. You're talking about DJnet. You're talking about all these other amazing drummers. Max Roach's playing was amazing, and this is what I'm going to add about Max Roach. He never met a drum rudiment that he couldn't play. He never met a drum. When a guy, see, people have to understand that when you play drums, when you play just a saxophone, it's like one note, because it's one saxophone. When you play drums, there's a distinguishing for a hi-hat, a snare, a bass drum, and you have to figure out all this type of stuff. That's why you always see drummers and they're like, very frantic, but they have to figure out these things all the way around. Oh, Roberto said, Max Roach, thank you. Max, and Rashid knows what I'm talking about. Monk knew how to use dissonance. Imagine what that sounds. I didn't even know what it was when I was a kid. Roberto, I knew I just liked it. And Max Roach was my dude. And I'm a Clifford Brown guy because I couldn't find a bad Philly horn player out of the 50s. They were all good. Train, like I said, Train, Clifford Brown, Lee Morgan, they were all out. Lee Morgan was only 15. He was playing. He was a killer. Okay. So that's why I gave Roach, Mingus, Train, Miles, and what's the bass player? It was one. Okay. And Louis Armstrong. Okay. So let's keep it up, Satana. Thank you. So for my next, okay, look, Roberto, I had to leave out Art Blakey, and this is why I'm going to tell you. Because Art Blakey, when he first started playing, he couldn't play. He couldn't play. If you look at the Art Blakey biography, he went out and he didn't have it, and he had to learn how to play it to stay in a band. That's the way it was. Max Roach was just natural. So no knock on Art Blakey, and I know he's Muslim too. He's a Muslim brother, but I'm like you can't discount that. After Mingus, my bass player of choice is Ron Carter, and it's a 1-1-2. Ron Carter and Ray Brown. Never met Ron Carter. Had the opportunity to perform with Ray Brown. He was the husband, Ella Fitzgerald, old husband. And Ray Brown was just smooth as butter. It's like if you took a bass player, he just took some margarine and put it on the thing, and that's the way he was smooth. He never was out of pitch. So I'm gonna say Ray Brown. Let's put our list up. Louis Armstrong. You got to go with Miles after that. And it's a close second. And I'm going to tell you why. Before Miles, there was Dizzy. And as much as Miles expanded the music and got into the commercial space, Dizzy was a beast. Dizzy Gillespie was a beast. And I'm talking about composing, playing. See, Miles in the modern era, he couldn't play all the notes as Dizzy. In the bebop, you had to be able to play bebop. Like if I had to put out like alto sax, I would put out, of course, Charlie. I would put out, of course, Bird, but I also would put out Frank Morgan because they're the two sandwiches of that type of music, if you will. The same as Fats Navarro, but I'm going to tell you, Dizzy Gillespie expanded it. Dizzy Gillespie lets Miles be Miles. And another name I'm going to throw out under the trumpet thing, just before I keep moving on. Satana, I'm just going to go because I messed up earlier. She's like, preach whatever. I'm going to throw this out here. Shout out. And this is a bit of my music evolution. So everybody hear this. I'm putting Ornette Coleman not on the top 10, but I'm giving him honorable mention. For years, I did not like Ornette Coleman because he tried to play all these different instruments. He could not play them well. He was kind of weird. But during my research, there were two people that heavily influenced John Coltrane about his free playing style. One was Thelonious Monk, and two was Ornette Coleman. So you can't hate the fruit and not like the root. So I'm backing up off of that. So Bilal said Wes Montgomery on guitar. Yeah, Wes Montgomery is great, and I used to open for his organ player. His name was Melvin Ryan. He used to play the B3 Hammond. He was in Milwaukee, but he's originally out of Indianapolis. Genius on the Hammond. Look him up, Bilal. Look up Melvin Ryan, the B3 Hammond. You'll love him. Okay, Archie Shea. Yeah, but he's a little bit later because I have a list of horn players that I love. Of course, Archie Shep. I also love, and may Allah be pleased with him, just return to him. Yusef Lateef, Pharoah Sanders. You had a Joe Henderson. You had a bunch of players. Now this is where it gets complicated. Wayne Shorter is a bad dude. He's still around, he's still getting in. Piano players. After Thelonious Monk, I gotta go with. I almost say Herbie Hancock. I can't. I got to go with Art Tatum. Art Tatum it's rare that you meet a piano player. Like I listen to them all, the Cuban ones, Gonzalo Rubalcaba, all these dudes, and I love them. But you're never going to find a recording of Art Tatum where he's not pitch perfect. And this is a big deal because, and I know people go, jazz, you got to realize that modern jazz produced a lot of the music that we listen to now. So thank you, Satana. I appreciate it. So who else? What we got to go drummers next, right? Okay, here's the drummer. Here's the drummer of choice. After Max Roach, I gotta go with old school. I gotta go with Philly Joe Jones. I gotta go with Philly Joe Jones. I mean, I really thought about who would come after Max Roach. I like Blakey, but Blakey's style was a little bit choppy for me at times. And what I love Blakey for is that he had the jazz message, which were originally the Muslim jazz messages. Just so you guys know, there were a bunch of Muslim people that were playing jazz back in the day. But I like Philly Joe Jones' style, and it was very cohesive, extremely cohesive. Bass players, I think we said Mingus for the bass players. Ron Carter was after Mingus. Let's get to the singers while we have a chance, because Roberto brought up singers, female singers. Whoo, I got a 1, then I got a 1A, then I got a 1B. Satana, is that a cheap way to do it? One of my favorite singers is, I'm going to throw it out there. I'm a huge Abby Lincoln fan. And this is no knock to Ella. This is no knock to Sarah, because they are in a category of themselves. But in terms of when I was hearing female jazz singers, that's what I heard. Ella and Sarah were tremendous big band singers. And they could sing anywhere, as well as Shirley Horn. I'm a big. I was in love with Carmen McRae. All right. I thought she stole the scene of JoJo Dance for Your Life is Calling. I love Carmen McRae. I love Betty Carter. There's an album. Roberto. Check it out. Carmen McRae sings Monk. You Can Thank Me Later. And then there's also a duet between Betty Carter and Carmen McRae on the same album. That's illegal. That should not ever happen again. Okay. And I have to throw out. Okay, yeah, throw out the Heat Brothers. Okay, I got you. Xylophone. I didn't get the xylophone because that'd be like Lionel Hampton, and of course, one of the Heat Brothers. Here's the deal, and check this one out. I've listened to some of his early jazz work. He doesn't make the top 10 list, but you know who was really, really good on drums? I'm going to tell you. James Ntume was really, really good. The Juicy Fruit guy. You can't remember that guy. And honorable mention on the trumpet, I'm going to give a shout out to Clark Terry. They just released, it's not a release, but he does the standards. Amazing job doing the standards. Okay. Should I get into a couple male jazz singers? She's like, I don't care, preach. I am a big Billy Eckstine fan. People who can sing like Billy Eckstine, I will buy your record, just so you know. Big Joe Henderson fan, I will buy your record. Big Al Jarreau fan. My brother's on here. He's from Milwaukee. I am a huge Al Jarreau fan. If you tell me that you don't like Al Jarreau, I'll probably stop talking to you, just because we can't have that kind of conversation. Joe Williams, yes. I said Joe Henderson. I'm sorry. I meant to say Joe Williams. Sorry about that, Rashida, Roberto. Thanks for correcting me on that. Joe Williams played with Count Basie. Great voice. One more person who I'm going to give a shout out to. You may not know him. He was in an era with Louis Armstrong, maybe a little bit earlier. Played trumpet. His name was Henry Red Allen. And I bring up Henry Red Allen because he encompasses that time where trumpet players, if you led on the trumpet, guess what you also had to do? You had to sing the song. So he has checked him out. Henry Red Allen, amazing dude. And of course, you find some stuff on Louis Armstrong. Don't hesitate to walk through it. Okay. So before I get out of here, I'm going to tell everybody, I want to appreciate you for hanging in here this show. I hope you liked it. If you can, check out some Gregory Porter. Very good. And I have been revisiting a young female singer called Rochelle Farrell. She's been around for a long time, but check her out as well. Okay, that's our show. This is Shout Out Show. That's my top 10 and the alternates. Thank you so much. Sister Tana, thank you so much for working the banners. Everybody have a blessed day. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. That's the Shout Out Show.